Julia, and I'm the event manager here at Omnitas. And with me today, I have our CRO, Frederick.
Hi, everyone. Good to see all of you again.
So, Frederick, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, you invited me here. So I guess we're going to talk about some of our add-ons that specifically works really well with our PSO solution.
Okay, and tell me, why have we developed these add-ons?
I would say it's actually a multitude of different reasons. Some of them came out of our own needs. Some of them came out of our clients' needs, and some of them just by marketing and trend analysis, where we kind of dug in and took a bit of look into different industries' pains and problems they were trying to deal with, and to see what we could do to alleviate those.
Okay, interesting. And so I'm gonna give you these add-ons, and you're gonna tell me more about them. So let's start. We begin with our first one, the social media suite.
And only but goldie. That actually came from our own need. So we developed that when our market team in the transition period was a team of one. So it was just Erica. So the social media suite is there to basically take the power of AI to be a helper and help out. So what it does really is it helps you ideate. So what are we going to write? What are we going to post? But it also then helps you actually draft your posts, the ones you accept the ideas for, so to speak, and then also help you with scheduling and posting and all of those stuff. And the nice part about it is also it brings back the impressions and likes and so on and so forth to get that information back into Monday. So the idea was Erica didn't have time to do all of that, so we needed to give her a colleague, and that became the social media suite in the end.
That sounds amazing. So no more separate tools then to get this working.
Exactly. So it's really a one flow kind of system where you can manage everything from within Monday, and you get your data back into Monday. And the really nice part, it works both with organizational, so in our case, the Omnitas LinkedIn page or whatever, as well as my own. So I actually use it for my own posts to schedule and plan and give me ideas and drafting help and so on and so forth. And of course, it's become better and better as the AI models have become better and better as well. So a year ago, I needed to change a lot in the draft. Now I don't need to change that much in the draft.
Sounds very smooth. Let's go into the second one, the OmniCloud. Tell us more about that.
I actually think on today's list, this is probably the oldest one of them. And this really very much came out of something we did for client upon client upon client, where most companies today tend to have a cloud storage of some kind, right? And we have some integrations between Monday and Dropbox and Box and Google Drive and OneDrive / SharePoint, to just mention maybe the most well-known. But it's a really simple integration that's there today. But one thing we saw that a lot of people were spending time on, and where they started mismanaging data or not getting everything correctly, was also when we have a file structure in those types of systems that should be conjoined with your project or whatever that goes on in Monday. So both having to manually set it up every time, that was a source of, well, it devoured some time. But it also, the biggest thing was really things were almost never correctly done when we trusted people to actually do it manually. So instead, we do it with an automation. So if you open your new project for a client, perhaps, then our add-on will check, does the client already have a folder in your file structure? If so, place the project in there or whatever file structure you have. But then we can also have like a whole hierarchy. So that project folder might contain subfolders and even documents in them that can actually also be pre-filled with your project information, for example. So it's there to save a lot of time and to make sure that it's done in the same way every time. So you don't have that, oh, where's the data?
That sounds
link everything back to your Monday board, so you can just click and get there. No need to search anymore.
That sounds like a lot of time saving, and I cannot tell you about the amount of times where I've been trying to find some document where my colleague has been putting it somewhere in the cloud and I can't find it. So it sounds like a very good type of structure.
It helps, and it can be fully automated. So in our case, we have that running. So each time we sign a new client, everything is by automation created.
Perfect. Okay, let's dive into the next one, the Omni Enricher.
Oh yeah. Also, yet again, our own need actually here. So basically, as salespeople, and yes, I'm one of those, we tend to spend a lot of time of just manually punching in data, right? Finding a lead, getting it into the CRM system, so on and so forth. We wanted something to make it a bit quicker. So what we did, this is actually a Chrome extension. So it works in your Chrome-based browser. So Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Arc browser, you name it. Basically anything but Firefox and Safari, more or less. So basically, you can go to a page, and then we actually use a fairly intelligent AI scraper so you can go to Crunchbase or Alla Bolag or in Sweden, or Prof in Denmark and Norway, sites like that host open company data. Then with the help of AI, we're actually compiling that and putting that into your CRM system. And of course, we have some fancy checks in there. So we check, does the company already exist? If so, don't create a double, and instead update the information we have and such things. Depending on what sites you have for your country, it will differ. So in the Scandinavian countries, we tend to have a lot of information because it's part of our legal framework that everything is open, while if you're in the States, it might be less, and the UK is somewhere in the middle. So it differs a bit, but it's basically click one button in your browser, everything is imported into your CRM system. So the client is there, they have the correct name, they have their turn of founding year, whatever type of information we're actually looking for.
Sounds like a quick way to get a good CRM system then.
Yeah, and actually you tried it yourself a bit while back. What do you think about it?
Yes, we all know that salesperson who's too eager to sell but don't have any time for any administration. So this helps.
It does. It does. Gone are the days when, you entered their name faulty and you don't have an address, and I have no idea what industry they're in. No, that's kind of sorted now. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yes, and let's dive into the fourth one, the outreach helper.
Yeah, so yet again, this is a combination, I would say, our own need in conjunction with a few clients at the same time. So we kind of co-developed it. Basically, when we are reaching out to cold clients or cold prospects, we need, there's a lot of manual labor going into that and a lot of thought. And our thinking was we are not the company that we trust an AI blindly to do stuff for us. We just don't. We don't think it's there yet. But it might be a nice assistant. So basically, what we did was, when you have used Omni Enricher and you have your lead, and you have also found the person, the contact person that you want to target, or the persons for that matter. Basically, this is the next step of that. So click a button in Monday in this case. And what basically happens is that we have a scraper going in and having a look at their website, the company website. It also takes a good long look at the person's LinkedIn profile to kind of deem who are they, what are their interests, so on and so forth. And what it delivers back after that is, of course, there's a huge amount of prompting in the back. So where we can put in your company specifics and what you sell and so on and so forth, your services. But then it matches that to them and also writes a draft for them, or actually a 2 cadence or 3 cadence draft that we can send to them to start reaching out to them. At the same time, it actually also scores the lead by different factors. In our case, it's like size, turnover, industry, and location, and a fair few number. I think it's like 13 different vectors it scores on. And then also, as a final thing, it also brings for the salesperson, this is the type of person, i.e. the role of this person in this industry, and this is the challenges most commonly faced in that industry by those types of roles or persons, which you can actually respond to depending on what your products and services are. So it's there to be a tool to help the salespeople to move quicker and help with a bit of the research, basically. And also the first draft of what can be sent. Of course, it should be personalized and done correctly, but it's something to get started. So it saves a huge amount of time.
Yeah. Yet again, let's talk about time saving.
I think that's kind of the theme running through these add-ons. They are there to save time at the end of the day and create some efficiencies, basically.
Yeah. Okay. And the fifth one, which I particularly like, the meeting assistant. Tell us more about that.
So we all know how most meeting tools have been dabbling into transcriptions and stuff like that. So, but in our case, it actually came out from our workshops we're hosting with clients. Then it turned into, this might be good for sales meetings and everything, right? But a transcription of a 2-hour workshop, you're never going to read that back again, right? That's basically opening a book. So what we really wanted to do was also try to actually use AI on it to also compress it and summarize it. What's the meeting about? So basically what we do is our add-on works for more or less any type of service. It works with Google Meet, it works with Teams, it works with Zoom. So as long as the system that you are using today actually saves a video file of the meeting somewhere that we can access, then our add-on works. So basically what we do is we actually take that video file, we read the audio from it, and let AI take a good long look at both first transcribing it, but then also summarizing it, also breaking out all the action points, who needs to do what, by when, so on and so forth, and then putting it into your CRM system. So basically on the client card, on the opportunity, here's the meeting you had, here's all the notes. So you have everything done. And this was actually quite a lot of me, because I ended up with having a lot of back-to-back meetings all the time. So, and I'm one of those, I usually don't take notes in a meeting. I usually sit down 5 to 15 minutes after meeting, note everything down, because otherwise I just don't manage to focus on the actual meeting. Instead, I'm just writing stuff, right? So, but when you start ending up with back-to-back meetings, you're going from one to the other and have basically no pause. You're probably rather 1 minute late into the next meeting. I didn't have that time. And then when I tried to recap everything at the end of the day, I had forgotten half of what we talked about, right? So this was a good way to sort those problems, much for myself, but then on a wider scale. And actually, full discretion here. Monday is actually bringing out, or it has at least been talked about, Monday bringing out some sort of a function like this natively for Monday, but it will only work with Zoom, and it's mainly going to be on transcription level. So we'll see. But ours is made for the summarization and getting everything correctly.
Yeah. And I can tell you the hours that I've been putting down, summarizing the meeting notes and then sending it out to the people who joined the meeting. So this is very helpful tool. But Fredrik, as you already know, we have our meetings in Swedish and sometimes in Danish. Does this add-on work for other languages, just other than English?
Yeah, and that's also one of the factors why we wanted to do something else, because many of them, trying to use those transcribers and stuff on a meeting held in Swedish, even worse in Danish, it's like reading Martian at the end of the day, right? But with the motor we're using, yes, it works splendidly for the Scandinavian languages. I've seen so far that it works for Finnish, so it works for most languages actually. And if you want to know exactly what languages it works really well for, then you can just actually check with OpenAI, because it's their motor doing the work.
Okay. Yeah, sounds like music to my ears. But so the sixth and the last one, the contract generator. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's a very lightweight add-on that basically creates from your opportunities board in Monday. So when you do it as a CRM, you can pull all the information you have in there, all the company details, contact details, your what are you selling, etc., to use the contract generator to generate a PDF contract from a template, but where we superimpose all of those metrics, basically, so like company names and addresses and everything like that we need, volumes and everything. Of course, it works as well, not for contracts, but also for quotes or anything like that. So it's basically a templating tool when you want something that's maybe more lightweight than to go the full route and having something like OneFlow or Scribe or DocuSign or Padadoc, whatever. So you don't want a full contract platform, then we can still do that very nice and neatly in Monday for a very, very tidy cost.
Great.
So it's not much to say about it, really. It's a PDF generator, but it's really smart and brings in the right information. That's what it does.
Yeah. Great. Okay, thank you so much for that, Fredrik. I see that we have a few questions from the viewers, but before we dive into that, could you just tell them like how do they get access to these add-ons?
Yeah, of course. So the best is reach out to us. So either you have one of our email addresses, you're very much welcome to just email us, or go to our website and go to omnitas.com/contact. Either fill out the form, find a nice emoji of someone you think looks nice, and email that person, and we gladly help you. And we'll book a meeting, and we'll see how and if it works, and how it for your specific use case and your ideas. So yeah, just hit us up, and we'll take a quick meeting, and we'll go through.
Perfect. Okay, are you ready for some questions?
Yes.
Okay, the first question that we got, what type of AI engine do we use for these add-ons?
We almost exclusively use OpenAI. They are one of the supreme ones, so it's either them or Claude, I guess. But we have gone mostly down the route with OpenAI, also because they work really well for language things and stuff like that. And they've also sorted most of their data security issues.
Perfect. Thank you for that. The second question we have, what social media platforms do we support?
More or less all of them, actually. So, and full disclosure, most of these, or actually all of these, actually use that are mate.com. So, but all of the normal ones, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, X, or Twitter, as I like to call it. I don't know, Truth Social maybe, if that's your cup of tea. But basically what you can actually do is actually go to make.com and go into the product section, and there you find apps and services, and then you can just see if there is a connector to your social media of choice. Otherwise than that, if it's not, then if they have an open API, we can still connect with it. But that might be a slightly higher cost in terms of the custom work, but still very doable.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, and we have a question regarding the contract generator. So we are today using DocuSign. Does that integrate with the add-on?
Yeah, so no, I would say actually DocuSign then replaces, because then you have a proper document or the contract platform, but then we integrate that for you. So that's something we can talk about instead of how do we integrate it. So basically you get the same functionality as I just said, but everything is going to happen in DocuSign, and DocuSign is also then of course going to handle signing and everything like that. And then you can actually do some really cool stuff with actually reporting back directly into Monday. Now this is signed and everything, so your users don't need to check their email for a notice or go into the platform of choice either. So that's actually a very common integration we do with several of those types of platforms.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Fredrik, for talking us through these add-ons. And thank you guys for taking the time of joining us today. Don't forget to keep an eye out for our upcoming webinars. And yeah, have a great day. Goodbye.
Have a good one, everyone. Bye.